I'm not being funny, Joe, but this is episode 9 of series 2, which means that I've said good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and every single one. You should do it this time. You should open.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Joe from the Family EV Podcast, and I'm joined by, as always, John from the regular EV Dad. How are you doing today?
I love just throwing the occasional curveball at you. How are you doing? I'm doing very well.
It's a busy tax season, but I'm getting through it.
Yeah, so let me tell you what. So we've not been here for a while, and it's not because we've been doing nothing. Joe has been involved in tax season because that's how he pays his bills, and I've been kind of unwell, for want of a phrase. I put my back out. Went to the doctors about the back, and now I have an intimate relationship with the cardiologist. So middle-aged caught up with me and said, "No, you're an idiot."
Isn't that a old Rodney Dangerfield joke that came true in real life? He went to the doctor for back pain, and he says, "Hey, you need to see a heart doctor too."
It is art imitating life, or life imitating art on this occasion. But that being said, we got a lot of news to cover and a few personal bits and pieces as well. So you got any personal bits and pieces, any road trips to talk about first before I talk about Bakersfield?
No, I've just been posting my Polestar road trip to Disney. I posted my 10,000 mile Polestar review, so a little bit late on getting some of that stuff up, but it's up now. So the next couple of weeks will be the rest of that road trip. So it's as I've said in the past, it's a really great road trip vehicle. Just decent charging curve. Get the complimentary charging for a couple of years. Much better than when it first came out. When it first came out, charging was definitely lacking a little bit. So the over-the-air updates have proved to be pretty useful.
Yeah.
What about you? Any travel plans?
I nothing major, but I am going to do a 500-mile round trip tonight. So what's interesting is COVID kind of got in the way. I already had an electric car. In fact, I was on my second generation of cars because I went the wrong way. I got the i3 first, the BMW i3, the 94 amp hour version, which is like the 110 mile one. I really do wish they'd done a proper fully sized battery version of that car. It was so light. You stick a 70 kilowatt battery in that thing, it would have been phenomenal. Just phenomenal. It was so comfortable to drive. It was a BMW. It really drove like a BMW, and so much space because it was so well designed. What a crazy idea. I would love that. But anyway, then I had the Fiat 500e because the Tesla, I was waiting on it. I was going to get a secondhand Model S. That was the kind of plan because the Model 3 was never going to work for me because the trunk, unfortunately, we have a family and, all that kind of stuff. And so when I got the ID4, which I technically got when COVID was was COVID happening? Yeah, COVID was happening. But I'd always planned on getting the Tesla the year before because I was going to drive down to LA every other week, and this was going to be like I want something that's got good self-driving, very fuel efficient because electric, and then everything kind of changed. So now my car's doing what it was always meant to do in a kind of weird way. So I'm headlining tonight in Bakersfield, which I never thought I'd say as a sentence. But I'm headlining there tonight at the Well Comedy Club. So yeah, I'm going to the center of oil, the California oil industry in Mrs. Regular V's Audi e-tron. I'm taking the Audi tonight because.
So what's the charging plan on that kind of a route? Is it one each way, pretty much?
Not quite. So we're gonna leave with 100%. We're gonna go pick up RK, and then we're gonna drop Copilot London off at the Sitters. She's very excited about that because she's not seen her friend Niley for ages. And then we'll blast. I'm going to try and get 200 miles out of a 200-mile car. We're going to see how that goes. I'm going to try and get all the way to Lost Hills, which is exactly 200 miles. You have to understand, it is exactly 200 miles. So I'm actually going to top the battery. I'm going to meet RK at Whole Foods. I'm going to plug the car in just to get back the probably 6% it'll take me to get to get there. And then we'll get all the way, no stops, to Lost Hills, grab coffee, and then I'll do a deep charge there because I'll have time. Bear in mind, a deep charge on the Audi is 45 minutes to full. It's a different kind of math to the ID4. That means that I will end up at the venue with probably 90% battery, I guess, maybe a bit less than that, maybe 85. And then coming home, tough choice. I can get all the way to, this is a horrible thing to say, I can easily get to Panoche Shell. But that's not somewhere you want to charge. It's got 6 chargers. It's got 3 different kinds of charger. Yeah. It's the most
it's kind of the way that it's the way Electrify America is becoming these days.
It's got the new Signets, it's got the OG ABBs, and then it's got the kind of the middle ones. Yeah, and it's just a really unreliable site. It often gets capped out at 60 kilowatts, and it's like, oh my god. So I don't know. We will see. The chances are I'll probably rip and run. I'll probably dip into Harris Ranch on the way home, which is only probably 100 miles. I'm looking at it right now. It's probably not even 100 miles. It's probably only like 80 miles. I'll dip in there, take it up to 80, and then we'll then rip up to Gilroy, which is only 25 miles away, but I can't quite make it. So, and I got to drop RK off anyway, and I need some charge in the battery because my dog sitter is taking my car tonight, and so that means that I won't be able to plug in when I get home. See, life is interesting when you got 2 electric cars. It's not boring.
So you mentioned the 45 minutes to 100%. That's where the e-tron really beats the Polestar. Not that they're really competitors, but they're both 200-mile cars on a good day, and they both pull 150. But the Polestar starts dropping off around 55, 60%, unlike you could hold all the way to 80%. And then for me at like 90%, I'm only pulling like 31 kilowatts. It really falls off a cliff once it gets near the top. So if you have a long stretch, it takes quite a while to charge up in the Polestar.
It does. It is why I like it. So we'll see. I probably will do a short video on it tonight. I'm not going to video the road because it's going to be dark most of the thing, and it's
yeah.
It takes so long to edit that footage in. But I've got it. Unfortunately, I've just been so busy. It's the busiest time of the year for me as well, and it's nothing to do with taxes. It's a new job and a lot of travel and the illness and the back. Yeah, anyway, all that good stuff. Let's start with, you know what? Let's get the ID4 crap out of the way right now. Let's do it. So, they cancelled the software updates because they found problems with them, right? And bear in mind, this is where you had to bring the car in. It would be an overnight thing and yada, yada, yada.
And the battery issue, right? Yeah. Or the
there's something on the battery,
issue.
But then the software update is more complex than they originally thought, and they were having issues. So they suspended the program. Now, a number of first editions, I've got a recall for a battery issue, which is a 3-day service.
And this is the high voltage battery issue.
High voltage battery. It appears to be the software on the BMS, but it is a 3-day service call. And that is and here's what I'm thinking, Joe, and I know nothing, and I was going to post about this on Reddit and ask if anyone else knew anything. I'm wondering if this is the reason why they were having problems with the software update, because the software update was going to a lot of the first editions as an initial thing. And I'm wondering if this is where the problem was, and they've realized they now have to separate the update into update the software in the BMS, and then do the update. I just...
Isn't that logically what we've been preaching since day one of more frequent updates with less issues trying to be patched in each update? Like that's software 101. Yeah.
It is. It's just incredibly annoying.
It's not better up here. You know, I told you that a coworker got an ID4, and part of it was there was a little bit of damage on the car when he had purchased it. So, you know, of course, Volkswagen fixed it for him. It was their fault why it happened. Part of it was it needed new, you know, the oh shit handle in the back needed to be replaced for some reason. Well, they called him that part was in after a couple of weeks, of course, because everything takes a couple of weeks, and they kept the car for 2 days to put that handle in.
I'm going to try and separate the dealer, because the dealer that's handling this is very good, very diligent. But I just VW and software. So anyway, I won't dwell on it. I will dwell on, and I found it interesting that we are seeing the ID7. We talked about it briefly, but the ID7 has been spotted without camo in Germany. And seeing it without camo, seeing this, you know, car, I don't get it. I don't get. I know it's a hatch. At least it's a hatchback, so that, you know, the trunk is more usable. Because that was my criticism of the Tesla 3, the Model 3. But I don't get it. I just don't get it. Like, I don't think the world is wanting more sedans right now. It was small cars and mid-size SUVs.
Yeah, it's surprising to me that between Volvo and Volkswagen, two brands that have a good history of great station wagons, you would think that, I mean, for all the dog owners out there,
this could have been a station wagon. All they had to do was stretch that roof a little bit.
Yep.
You know, it's almost there. It's like a model. You know, it's almost there. I just don't.
So many electric vehicles seem to be going this design route of like how the Ioniq 6
well,
is
the
a bit like
Ioniq
swoopy.
6? Oh my God, that things look like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It
Well,
looks like
all these brands are making these swoopy, sleek cars of like a styling, and it's like people want big, boxy. Make a big, boxy vehicle, and it will sell line out the door.
Well, so speaking of big
like
and boxy,
EV9.
well, yeah, exactly. So this week we get we get the full announcement, and we get more details on the EV9. And I have to say, woof. Is it good looking? Nope. Is it stylish? Yeah. It doesn't look bad.
It seems like it's the same battery pack, at least on the smaller one that goes in everything else Kia Hyundai or similar.
So right? No, the smaller battery is the regular battery. So that sounds weird. So the regular battery, so there's a smaller, 60 something kilowatt available in an Ioniq,
right?
5. And then the extended one, which, let's be honest, is probably for most people, is the 76. In this thing, in the SUV, the 76 becomes the basic version, and then they now have a 99.8, 100 as makes no difference. Pardon me. And the rear wheel drive long range is going to have 300 miles, as makes no difference. I think it was ADAS. I had it up before. Anyway, it's 300. What's interesting is it's not that powerful. I know it's got a lot of torque, but it's only got 150 kilowatt single motor, which is equivalent to about 200 brake horsepower.
Yeah, that's the same problem with even like the EV6 is that the single motor variant is very down on power, for sure.
Yeah, now the all-wheel drive variant is 282, so that's the thick end of 400. So, and again, it is what it is. Oh yeah, right now, so they estimate the long-range rear-wheel drive will have 336. That's on WLTP. So here in the real world, that's going to be 250 and change.
Yeah. Do you know? Do they list the smaller battery rear-wheel drive?
They did, but I haven't got it in front of me.
Because that's the one with the 18-minute charging. That still might actually be pretty good.
It is. It kind of is, but it also isn't. What I'm getting to the point now where I realize that Americans just can't be educated. I know some of you are thinking right now, this is just one of John's, is instead of one of John's jokes. Nope. I'm getting to the point where I think we're just going to have to wait for old people to die. And possibly some of the dumb ones as well. Because in every interaction I've had at a charger with somebody who has owned a car for a period of time, none of them until the moment I say hi knows that the lower you come in, the faster it charges. This makes no sense to them, even when you do the, filling up a glass jar. No. So a lot of education is required. And in between now and that education, we just need bigger batteries and 800-volt architectures and Tesla version 4 superchargers. That's what we need.
The problem is that dealers just, simply aren't educating people. I mean, and people come in to buy a car, and dealers are. I don't think they're doing anything. I don't think it's the dealer's
responsibility to educate, my friend. It's on people to educate themselves.
That's true too. But I've been the same boat. Every single road trip I've been on, I encounter people that are, at 95% still sitting on a charger, right? When, they could go down the road to the next one, right? And then, even look at plug share. People, a Mach-E person complains that I'm only getting 50 kilowatts. Well, if you're at I'm only getting 50 kilowatts at 80% or whatever, 70%. It's like, well, yeah. That's normal. You're not going to get 155 kilowatts at 70%. It's yeah. And speaking of educating people, plug share is a whole other thing. People don't make proper reviews. They just check in good charging speed or great charge. They don't say what charger they used, what plug they used.
So annoying.
Yep.
So annoying. I always leave a full thing. I let you know which charger I used, and I let you know what my maximum speed was. I'm like, do it properly. You're helping out. The more people do it properly, the better. It's crazy that we need to do it because it should be as simple as a gas station. Like, I filled up. Great. I've never checked in at a gas station with the exception of the gas station at I-80. That's the only one I've ever done is the I-80 truck stop. And that's because it was cool.
Pump 4 was running a little slow.
Yeah. I think it's because I said I was going to get a fringed pair of buttless chaps, and I was threatening my wife with that. But let's move on to as we started with software. GM is going to within the EVs. So this is not for combustion engines, but their plan with the Blazer, which is their next new release, is no Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. GM has been working with Google since 2019 to develop the software that will be used in future electric cars. At launch, the software will offer access to Google Maps and Google Assistant at no extra cost for 8 years. That's nice of them. Future versions of the software will offer dedicated apps like Spotify and Audible. So what you're saying is that a car company that's invested billions of dollars in hardware in mining rights, in battery manufacturing, has said, you know what, we can do software we can do software better than the people that are running software on 4.5 billion devices. That's where we're now. Let's. By the way, George, I was about to call you George. By the way, Joe, I am going to run on this for just a second. Okay. Here's the thing. Part of the reason they're doing this is because Apple wants more data. So the next version of Carplay, if your vehicle is compatible, would be getting data from the car with regards to consumption and state of charge and some other metrics, and will also allow you to control, will also interface with the AC system and the radio. Because one of the frustrations right now is if you want to listen to the actual old school radio, you have to dip out of that screen and into the regular screen and then go back to CarPlay. And it's a frustration. So Apple wants to improve that. One has to assume Google does as well. Google already has Android Auto embedded in the Volvos and Polestars. And you always know that whatever's in there is going to appear in Google, in Android Auto regular at some point. But this is GM. Look at Volkswagen, the biggest auto group. Software's not easy. And you guys run a development pace and a testing pace. To call it glacial will be a kindness. So anyway, I have no strong feelings on the subject.
It's yeah, I was going to go down the same road that you were saying about CarPlay, how CarPlay is working to be interfaced. And that's the best part is CarPlay wants to handle the route planning as well. Something that they've demoed at the developer conference last year.
They do it right now with the Ford, with the Lightning.
Right.
If you've got CarPlay running on a Lightning, it gets the data. And it also resizes for that thing. And they're going to use that. And the other cluster will also be CarPlay-ish. And Audi's signed up to make sure that it's working in the next version. I don't know if my car's going to be backwards compatible to it, but
hopefully Hyundai Kia sign up because they have no route planning at this point. so hopefully they let Apple fix that problem for them.
Yeah, that would be a good thing. So I'm getting multiple messages on my phone.
It's something that's become so integrated into everyone's life of using CarPlay at this point. Now that's been around for I think 8 years or so. So I think we're at a point that people aren't going to want to buy a car without CarPlay. So if it's the case of the Blazer or a Mach-E, I think that person's going to walk out with a Mach-E.
I'll go a step further. I don't know what my wife is driving right now. She's in Columbus, Ohio today. She's out there for the weekend. She comes back tonight. She called me. She's just checking in when she'd landed, and she got her bags and stuff, and she was and she picked up a car at Avis, and she got an upgrade. She was annoyed because her USB cables wouldn't work because she only had USB-C to USB-C cables, and this car didn't have USB-C. I'm like, huh. Now my wife hates CarPlay, hates Android Auto, doesn't like it, will not use it in the Audi. She doesn't, but she doesn't do a lot of long distance. But she was frustrated she couldn't use it now when she's out of town because that's when it's useful for her because she doesn't know where she is and she had an hour and a half driving and to wherever she's going to. She's not in Columbus; she's actually in Dayton, but it's an hour and a half drive. So yeah, I just think this is short. Now I will go into why I think they're doing it, and here's an interesting piece of data. When I went down to San Diego. I did two. Where else did I go? I went to San Diego, and then we went somewhere else.
Is that one of the times you went to Vegas from there?
Recently. No. I went. Did we go up to Poland?
Pasadena?
I can't remember. Anyway, recently. So earlier in the, so a couple of months ago, I did two decent-sized trips in the Audi. Can't remember what the first one was, but anyway, And because I wanted to, it's kind of annoying, and we've talked about this, and we said we'll do an episode on it, and I never have. So the Wi-Fi in the VW, if you want to have Wi-Fi in the car, which, by the way, no one really needs, but if you've got a kid with an iPad and you don't want to have to keep turning your phone on to support it, it's a thing. It is $10 a month, right?
Through Verizon, I think, right?
Actually, with Verizon or T-Mobile, it's got an eSIM and it can only be done once. And what's annoying about that is that we did it on Verizon because that was the only choice at the time. But we have a T-Mobile plan and you can't bring it back. So anyway, it's a one-time eSIM.
So I did Verizon because I have T-Mobile because I figured widen my range of coverage.
Well, the other thing is when I was doing this was also when you and I were talking about doing I-50. And I was like,
right.
Well, it would be good to have Verizon.
Yeah.
If it is Verizon, because there's Verizon and there's Verizon. There's Verizon with roaming to local partners, and there's Verizon that's just pure, which is their pay-as-you-go plan. So anyway, but I was in the Audi, and I was heading, and the Audi route planning is actually really good. It's not intuitive like Tesla, but you just say, I want to go there, and it will work it out, and you can tell it to only do high performance. And the software, the map updates are pretty quick. So like Kettleman has been there for a while. It's certainly never going to appear in there. It's definitely not in the friggin' VW. I don't even have to look. Kettleman might not be there. I don't mean the Charger. I mean the city that's been there since 1846. That might not actually be there. Kind of recent.
But it'll route you to a level 2 charger nearby.
Oh God, won't it? Just won't it? Anyway, but it's a pretty good system, and I paid, it was $500, I think, for the year. And that, it gives me the premium Wi-Fi. It also gives me the traffic. It gives me Google satellite view if I want it, and whatever else. GM has decided it wants that $500. Now, if they deliver an experience that is as good as the Audi, because I'll tell you what I'll do today. I will use, when I'm driving down there, I'll have Waze running in the background, but I won't have it on my screen. I'm going to be honest with you. I tend to just download YouTube videos, and I don't watch them, but I can hear them and see out the corner of my eye on the long stuff. But Waze is running in the background, and I will get the police alerts and accident alerts and stuff like that. And that's a pretty good system for me. But yeah, it turns out they just want to get that subscription revenue. The company is targeting $20 to $25 billion in annual revenue from subscriptions by 2030.
There's more with that too, because they can get money from Electrify America to say, make sure you make sure our chargers show up a little more often. Or in the VW, you probably noticed when we're driving, a McDonald's pops up on the map for no reason as you're driving by it. So there's lots of advertising dollars that they're trying to
get
unlock in the process.
But try and deliver a good experience before you try and monetize it. That would be my my advice. I do want to talk briefly, as we mentioned, the Audi, that the pricing for the Audi Q8 e-tron has just come out. Now, that is different to my e-tron. So there are some noticeable improvements on the 2024 Q8 e-tron.
Is that still 2-row, or would that be a 3rd row at that point?
No, it's still 2-row. It's still fundamentally it's the same damn car. From the outside and the trim, I don't think there's any difference. Where there is a difference is that they have jumped the battery to 106 kilowatt hours. It's 114 gross. So it is a
nice buffer.
That's a big, but that's why it can charge at 150 all the way to 80-90%. It's crazy. Even when my thing stops charging, it's still at 60 for crying out loud. It's nuts. Now, they've increased the charging rate from 150 to 170, which is great. So actually, if you think about it, that speed increase, but also the bigger battery as well, it's exactly the same time frame. It probably will charge in exactly the same time. But they're saying 10 to 80 in 31 minutes. And yeah, it is 10 to 80 in 31. It's 0 to 100 in 45 and change. and the range will go up. The real world range will be 250. And I'm going to be honest with you, if we were taxed differently, if sales tax allowed for the trade-in value, so I only paid.
That's how it is here in Illinois. So I can, if I have $100,000 car and I owe $95,000 on it, I still don't pay tax on the $100,000, regardless
And
of
if
what I owe.
that's how we did things in California, I would probably do it. If I didn't, because the cost of change is the issue, right? It
Right.
does annoy me, and it's the number one reason why you would lease a car in California. If you didn't do as many miles as we do as a family. But what is interesting is it will charge at up to 19.2 kilowatts on AC. If you have a 20 amp charger, and
So,
then it will
so Ford Lightning owners would like this as their second vehicle.
Well, you're just batting for 100. Let's talk about the Ford Lightning. I canceled mine. I got a text message 2 days ago and an email that I could order. I could now put in my order. And I was on a conference call at the time, but it wasn't an interesting one. It was not one that I needed to pay much attention to, which is always nice. What are you doing? Sorry, we have an interruption from the... What's wrong?
Well, I'll do a quick tangent then while you're working with that. Ford actually also debuted the show, or teased that their next truck generation is on the way. And they also finally debuted their MEB platform, Ford, which is going to be branded as a Ford Explorer, but in Europe only, sadly.
And it's a small Explorer. It's what I would call what's the square one called? I've forgotten now. Not an Escape.
Bronco?
No.
Yeah. It's like a Ford Edge, though. It's probably
that's what I was thinking.
Like.
It is. It's Edge. Have you ever noticed how similar the Edge is to the Mustang Mach-E, by the way?
Yeah.
From the side. I know the other day I went, that's it. I've not seen that color Mustang. And then I realized it's not a Mustang. It took me longer than it should have done. Which is interesting. And they're not going to do that here. That level of cooperation, that has to be good for sustainability for, it's like, yes, common platforms and then differentiate on your technology. But
that's what Acura's doing with GM, and it just makes sense.
It does. But anyway, let me tell you about my quick Ford thing, because it's disappointing, if I'm being honest with you. So, you can't order a Pro. I don't need a fancy truck. I don't need a fancy Audi either. The Audi was just really well priced, and the tax and the tax situation and my tax situation just said, yeah, that makes sense. But the Pro isn't available this year. And that's all I need. I don't need friggin' screens, and I don't need all the fancy stuff. I actually just wanted a truck. This thing would be used for hauling not dogs, but dog stuff. Yeah, we would use this as our second vehicle. We would take the Transit and we would take this at the same time. And that was it would have been perfect, but they won't. First of all, they put the price up again. While Tesla's reducing prices, Ford's increasing prices. And I get it, because, clearly there was money on the table, or the dealers wouldn't have been doing the markups that they have been. Ford said, you know what, we'll have some of that. Thank you very much. I'm just trying to, it won't even let me, you can't even spec a Pro with the extended battery right now, which is kind of annoying.
Well, and the other thing is, for an XLT, in order to get the extended battery, they make you put like a $10,000 option package on with it.
$5,000, but yes. Okay.
It becomes a Rivian price real quick. That's what happens.
Yeah, and that was my point, is the basic price. I'm trying to get back into it now. model. So the XLT with the extended battery starts at $80,974. That's $974. That isn't $974. That that is $8,474. Because that $974 means it cannot qualify for the tax credit. That's it. End of. Doesn't make any difference. So that, is it worth it? I don't know. I can tell you something. I don't need an $81,000 truck.
I know the door is wide open for GM at this point. If the Silverado comes in with the big battery at a low price, like they've mentioned already, but we'll wait till it actually comes to market. But if the Silverado can check those boxes, they're going to steal a lot of probably traditional Ford customers because of it.
Yeah, it just kind of was annoying, and like you said, it's got a whole ton of upgrades on it, which the technology. I wouldn't have a car these days that doesn't have the radar and the sensors and all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't do it. Not for me. I don't care. I still park using my mirrors. I know it's weird, but some of us do that. But I don't need BoxLink. I don't need all the other stuff. Yeah, it's a equipment group, $5,000 upgrade as standard, and that's before you get into a tow. See, this is what annoys me. So you can have the tow technology package, which is where it does the weird thing with the steering and the cameras.
Yeah.
But if you want to actually be able to tow anything heavy, that's $1,000. You don't need the fancy stuff, but if you want to carry anything heavy, so you need the extra cooling on the battery and the motors, but that also requires you to have the 9.6 kilowatt Pro Power on board system if you have a standard battery. I'm like, this is why I say choice is sometimes a problem. There's too many choices, and I just Ford lost $3 billion. So here's the crazy thing: they lost $3 billion. Now some of those are investment related, some of them are on the vehicles, but
it's just interesting that they do this with the Lightning when the Mach-E did a much better job of streamlining. It's like, okay, do you want dual motor or single motor? Do you want long range or shorter range? Do you want the premium package or not? And there's your car. It's.
I wish you hadn't said that, because now I'm curious. Because how much does a Mach-E? Let's look at the. Let's go to the Mach-E page. Build an online order.
The Mach-E gets very expensive very quick, especially because if you want the premium, or if you want extended range, you have to get a premium package, something like that. So basically, it's the same thing that extended range comes.
Right now, you can only order a GT or a something else. Like you said, it has to come with an extended, and it's so that's that's a Mach-E GT trim, which has got nice leather and and the extended pack is $58,000. You can't tell me. You can tell me, but I won't believe you, that there is $24,000 of extra value in let me use the word, truck.
Well, that's the same way even to go to the regular F-150, that you can buy a Ford Explorer or some other large SUV, and those tend to come in cheaper than the truck. It's like obviously the SUV has so much more bits inside it. It's just complete gouging in the whole truck world these days. And I mean, it's competition. Like I just mentioned, competition is going to fix all these problems, because if GM comes in and, when our grandkids finally see the first Cybertruck,
Yeah, Cybertrucks, they're going to get to scale very quickly, because Musk has learned how to build factories. In fact, funny, that was going to be the next thing we talked about. There's a rumor that that Tesla's planning a new Gigafactory in the US in conjunction with CATL, to manufacture LFP. Those are the iron phosphate batteries. There's no nickel, no cobalt. These are the ones which are in your car, right?
Yep.
The main issue is that LFP battery cell production is currently almost entirely concentrated in China. I'm reading this from Electrek. Furthermore, in the US, it creates a problem for automakers trying to take advantage of this federal tax credit, which requires both the battery and the car to be made in North America. Moving forward, as of now, we talked about this just before the start. It's the 19th or the 18th of April.
Right. So the way the wording was is kind of interesting. They say the 16th is the last day to take advantage of the credit the way it is. And they say on the 18th, they're going to post the list of vehicles that qualify. So effective the 18th, things will change. Tesla's already come out and admitted, the standard range rear-wheel drive Model 3 is going to, lose either a chunk of its credit or all of its credit. But I've thumbed around on some other manufacturers, like GM's website. They haven't said anything about it yet. But I would think a lot of brands are going to be losing some of their credit for sure.
No,
but
absolutely.
Also funny, as I mentioned, I think we mentioned this before the call, or before this, that why are they not posting the list sooner, right? If you or me are in the market and the Chevy Bolt, for example, is going to lose half of its credit come the 18th and GM's not saying a word about it, why wouldn't the government do everyone a favor, post the list now, and people can go and buy up the Bolts that are on dealer lots and knowing they can take advantage of a credit that might not be there at the end of a weekend.
I'm going to go back to how we started this podcast, my friend. It's up to you to educate yourself.
Right.
I don't want to rely on the government for anything other than defense if I can possibly help it. Yeah, that's right. The Californian just said that. The British Californian just said that. Get over it. Can we just say, by the way, I've had my teeth cleaned. If you can't tell, they're extra kind of... I'm very conscious of it right now. It even makes the gap show up even worse than normal, but it's kind of, my daughter said, "Oh, I can really see your hole now." That's great. British John's teeth are 50% less British right now. Anyway, I can't get over how smooth they are. It's weird. But no, this will be interesting because at the same time, and we talked about this before, some are saying that the legislation needs to be tweaked so that not just where the materials come from, but Chinese-owned or co-owned factories may become an issue in the future.
Right. Which is a big issue for Ford in particular.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. The Chinese would be well advised right now to not send any more balloons. It's pissing people off. By the way, okay, I'm going to get my political horse here just for a second. Listeners, if you're over the age of, let's go with 18, okay? If you're worried about them taking TikTok away from you, look at what's going on in France right now with the riots over pensions and them being asked to work an extra couple of years and pay in more. And ask yourself, I should be doing that. Hell's teeth, yeah. TikTok's not important. Your friggin' health is, and living and enjoying your older years and having the money to be able to afford to retire is. I mean, my God. I am
this bill, piggybacking off that bill that's gone through that's in Congress right now doesn't mention the word TikTok once.
No, well, ignore that bit because it gives power to the Secretary of State, and the President, and that's fine up to a point because it's not about TikTok; it's about social media. But also, it's because Section 230 needs to be reformed. There's so much stuff going on, but the whole thing is a distraction to. Welcome to. You know what? NPR is available. Go listen to it. Let's wind this up with something positive, Joe, because we're seeing announcements about the Inflation Reduction Act money and the infrastructure that's going to create. We're seeing, notices. We're seeing stuff being built out in different states. This didn't get a lot of attention, but I thought it was interesting. Tritium has announced it's accepting orders for its new NEVI, that's NEVI, formula program chargers. So they've put together a tritium compliance system includes 4 150 kilowatt charging stations with 2 power rectifiers to deliver power to 4 EVs at the same time through a modular system. And they've also put it together in such a way that it includes the servicing, deployment and servicing and all those things in one package. I like this. They're based out, people don't know tritium, they're based out of, tritium without knowing it. Tritium is the weird shaped 50 kilowatt chargers that used to be ubiquitous to charge point, but now they're like, you see them in hotels and other places. Those are the tritium devices. They've opened up their facility in August of last year in Lebanon, Tennessee. The facility is expected to produce up to 30,000 DC fast chargers. This has got to be a good thing. It's made in America. It's using American technology. It's going to be deployed in America. And they're on time and on schedule. This has got to be a good thing, Joe.
This, I think this also goes into what we were just mentioning about Ford. The competition will improve things. So there's lots of complaints about reliability of some EV charging networks out there. If these chargers come out and are reliable, make a good product, it's going to force the competition to figure out their problems.
No, so, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I do think it's strange that there's no 350 in there, but I'm thinking about this like, just 350 versus 150. First of all, the theoretical limit because of voltage and that kind of stuff tends to be 270 anyway. But 270, 150, that's going to add 4 minutes onto your charge.
Well, and if cars run their temperature sensors properly, like some cars just have built-in, this is the charging curve, and no matter what, nothing happens. But if cars actually use their sensors properly, plugging into 150, you should get that 150 longer than you would be at 150 if you charged on at 350. That you took the peak rate, but then you would ramp that, because of temperature, yada yada. So it's not, it still is a great charge. I mean, we own 150 vehicles that we love.
Yep. No, absolutely, absolutely. On that bombshell, Joe, I think we're gonna give our listeners some time back this time. We're not going to run to the full 3.5 hour Joe Rogan podcast experience. We'll save that for next time. We will try and be back next weekend. Life is a thing, and we are been trying to do more of these things when we're on the road and remote, but we just haven't found a technology platform that works for us to do that and make it the editing possible. So.
Well, especially with the next couple of weeks with these changes to the credits and everything, there'll be a lot of news, I'm sure, coming out. So we'll be sure.
So don't come to us for it because we're not reliable. as we're just going to talk about it. We're not going to tell you when it happens. That's subscribe to Electric and Inside In. We're going to give you commentary with a mixture of Chicago and British accents. That's what we're here to. That's what we're here for. Make sure you're following EV Motoring on YouTube and regular EV Dad. Feel free to find Joe on Instagram and Twitter and even TikTok. I've seen you keep coming up as my TikTok contact, so that's interesting. I can only assume that there's pictures of Joe just as a small Japanese girl doing weird dances and licking poles. I haven't seen it, but I imagine it exists.
Only one way to find out.
Oh, well, don't dig too hard. And you can find, I'm trying to consolidate everything into just British John comedy on Instagram right now because I only have so much time in this lifetime. On that bombshell, I'm going to go and make lunch for Copilot London. And then I'm going to go and start a 500-mile trip to Bakersfield. So expect to see me at charging sites as diverse as Kettleman, Lost Hills, Bakersfield Plaza, and Gilroy. In fact, as I think about this, Joe, There's a 90% chance I'm only going to go to Lost, because Lost Hills is now, with the exception of the Chatamo, has got the new chargers. So, although I also had a negative new charger experience, that's because they didn't replace the core infrastructure. They just put new distributors on it. But there's a good chance I'm only going to be hitting new chargers today. We will see. Thank you from me, and
have a safe drive and take care until next time.
See you down the road.